Okay, so align and distribute. Let's talk about where to find it. You're going to open Windows, you're going to scroll down, you can see it right here. This is a little window that pops up, and you can pretty much put it anywhere, but this is where I like to put it. And now we're going to talk about how to use some of these tools. So let's talk about alignment first. As you can see, I am on auto, and what it's chosen to do for us here is object. What this does is it moves to the object closest. So you can see as I hit the left, it goes to the most left object, and same for the right. It would do the same if you did top, left, or top, bottom, whatever. Whatever is further closest to that side that you've hit, the rest of the objects will follow. Object usually only really works if you have an object to reference, so you would pretty much need more than one. This is canvas, so the objects move to the entirety of the canvas. Alignment can also be used for the most part with one layer, with the exception of object. Whereas distribute cannot be used with one layer. This is us testing and showing the selection option here. You can see it's right next to the canvas option. And this will align the object to the borders of the selection you've made. So you can do this to any shape. I just chose to go with the rectangle. Now you're going to hit Control R and you can show the grid here. And this is how you use the guide. So the object that you align will automatically align to this line that you've put down. If you have multiple grid lines, it doesn't quite compute as to what you're trying to do. But this, so if you hit in the center, it'll go in the middle of the line, bottom, go under, top, go above. And because there is no side part of that guideline, you can't go sideways. But if you had multiple, you could go sideways and meet it in the corner. And auto, again, so I've clicked it to just show you that it just chooses what it believes is the best option, and in this case, it's canvas, but previously when I had multiple objects selected, it chose object, as it's what it thought we wanted. And hovering over any of these tools will show you what they do. Now we're going to test out the distribute options and kind of show a little bit about what that is. And you can see here I'm showing you that you have to have 3 or more layers in order to use the distribute function. So you can still use the alignment tools when you have multiple layers, and here we show that it has equally spaced the objects. What I just aligned there as well is to show that one side obviously looks much bigger than the other, but that is because the box of this mushroom goes to the furthest point. So at the top of the mushroom, that is the furthest point that it is referencing. Here's a little example that if I had a little circle somewhere, it would then make the box that the app is referencing for what would be even distributed. So if I'm going to show you an example of that, so I leave that dot there, and I'm going to realign these, and you can see now that the object moves further and looks even more off because of that dot. And now you can see I am showing you again the lines, but if you go from the top of the mushroom that it's referencing is the furthest right point, and the bottom of the mushroom, which is referencing as the furthest left point, you can see that they are pretty much identical in their spacing. Now we're going to talk about how we could use this feature. Something you want to watch out for is the additional spec in something you're referencing, how it can actually be useful for you. So I'm showing you a little bit about what you can do to kind of offset some of the layers and make that kind of glitch or interesting effect that you sometimes see on art. And here's where I'm going to show you that right now, and how this particular thing can actually be beneficial for you. I imagine that you can make some really cool glitch effects with this as well and get them pretty aligned. So that shows you how it's now detached from the line art and a little bit underneath because of that dot I've added. And now I'm going to show you why where you put that dot can drastically change where the effects is. So the closer it is to the line art or to the object you're trying to move, the better result you're going to get. But if you want the base color to be further away from the liner, you just put the dot further. Now we're going to talk about patterns. So we're going to go back to the grid, which is Control R. Zooming in can really help you to make sure that you're perfectly aligned with the corner of the canvas. Here we're going back to the 3 examples of the mushroom I did. I've removed one of the mushrooms so that we can align this mushroom. So I've showed you here where we've got it now perfectly aligned with the center of it. I've duplicated the piece here, and since I want to add another guide that would be the same angle, you have to delete the previous ruler that you added, or guide, and then add a new one for the same. If you was the top and the side, you could add multiple, but because we're doing it from the same angle, you have to remove it and add a new one. And now you can see I've made the new duplicate onto the other side in the middle. And now if you want to save this as a pattern or a background, you could, I'm duplicating it and putting it to a folder so that I can keep that file if I want to make edits to it. Now you can see I am adding it to my materials, which you just get to by clicking the little arrow in the top. And now I'm going to go to its settings and click tiling. This will allow it to be a pattern when you put it on your canvas in the future. So now I'm going to close that, and I'm going to show you what it looks like when I put this material down. Okay, and now we can resize it and see a bit more about how this material actually looks. So this could be used for backgrounds, patterns, etc. And you can tell that because we put that guideline in the center and matched up our pieces by splitting them up, essentially by duplicating it, now we have the perfect mushroom on both sides. Now I'm going to do another example. I'm going to put it in a folder, duplicate the folder multiple times, and then we're going to perfectly space these oranges that I've made up above them. Now they're perfectly aligned. Now I am checking here which ones I want to kind of adjust. I've chosen those two. Now I'm going to go to them and move them slightly to the right and left. Holding shift while doing this will also keep your object going straight, essentially. Now what I'm doing is finding those pieces that are closest and kind of cut off by the edges. And what I could have easily have done is just removed those pieces entirely and then had created that as a pattern or as a background, which would have looked just as better or good. And it could have, but what I chose to do instead was I chose to take that piece and instead align them with the ruler I've put down. Now I'm taking that same piece from the bottom one and putting it again on the left. To just align with that ruler, because I'm going to have to remove that ruler in order to add the same ruler of the same angle to the other side, the vertical ruler. And you can see me deleting that ruler there in order to add the additional one. And there she goes onto the other side, which will we then duplicate the pieces that are on the left, and now put them on the right by aligning them in the center of the ruler. Duplicating again, and aligning in. Now as you can tell, the 2 layers that or rows that we've kind of messed with now are kind of off. They're not perfectly aligned or spaced out. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take those ones and realign and correct their spacing. I chose to do this as another example for what we could use this tool for. Now I'm duplicating it, merging it, and then I will be saving it as a pattern. And I do that just by dragging the layer into the materials folder, which again you get by just hitting the arrow at the top. Boom, now it's in there. I'm going to click on it and then hit the little gear bottom part, hit tiling, hit save, and boom, bada bing. We've got our little background / pattern that we can use. Convenient, which you can do spirals or things that you might want to use in the background of a comic. Now we're going to show you a little bit of how you can use this for lines. So I've taken one bottom part and I've taken that same piece and brought it all the way to on the top after duplicating it. Duplicated multiple, and now they are perfectly aligned vertically. And I'm going to do the same thing horizontally by putting it to the piece that I want, and then duplicating all of the pieces that are on the original line and aligning them. And now this can be a great grid, as you can see right there, or it could just make a good background piece as you want it, or guide. And obviously the next way to use this would be for comics. So generally these frames would be filled with art, and what you could do is you could readjust them. So if you're going from a printable type of layout, it could help you with making it a webtoon type layout, a scroll on the mobile. So now I'm going to move some of these frames around. And then I'm going to select them, go back to the alignment and distribute, and I'm going to spread them out equally vertically. So now they are equally spaced per square. Obviously these were just thrown down, so if you had previously made frames and stuff, you could easily adjust them better to your liking, and they would be fitted properly, rather than such small frames. Now we're going to do the selection thing. So if you didn't like them touching the edges so much, we can also do the same kind of procedure within the selection if you go to the selection area button. And now they are perfectly spaced out. The spacing between them is much smaller now, but that's also because we made the space smaller. So here we're going to show you aligning text with objects. So here I've written noodle for whatever reason. Placing that down, now I've drawn a noodle object, and I'm going to go to objects, select those two pieces, and then I'm going to align them together. So now you can see there how far they were. Where you put them in proximity to each other is going to matter. And then this is the same thing, but horizontally. And now another thing you can use this for would be for references. So you can see there I've spread out a bunch of photos, and now I'm doing a little sketch underneath of them, so kind of showing you how you could use them as references for what you're doing, and then again showing you that you can align objects that aren't just text. So you can align a photo and a sketch that you've done. Now if you have a sketch that you didn't put in the center and want it to be in the center, you can now do that as well immediately. And here's an example of that with this cupcake sketch. Go right in the center. Okay, now here I'm going to show you a little bit of an idea that you can also use this for, which would be sprinkles on a cupcake or some sort of decoration on an object. So I have isolated the top part of the icing for this cupcake, and here I am messing with the sprinkles a little bit. And now I've aligned them horizontally, duplicated them, put them in their own little thing and merged them, duplicated them multiple times, and now I've spaced them out. I add a few more here in a second in order to show you a bit of a better example of this being perfectly spaced. This would allow you to go through and make perfectly aligned decorations or strawberries, etc., etc. This is just me showing you with sprinkles as an example. And you can also use it to just slightly adjust what you've already got. Now here's an example for Twitch emotes, or anything that you might need to resize the canvas for a piece that you're working on. Whether that be you're working on a pixelated piece and you want it to be resized, but it doesn't fit perfectly in the page, Twitch emotes, and you have to resize the image multiple times, icons, perfectly sized for posts for social medias like Instagram and things like that. And this is me showing you it aligning to the bottom for the first size of the canvas. And then I'm going to resize it and show that to you again. And then here's the new canvas size. We shrink that bad boy up. And using that box as a reference, you can easily make it perfectly match the size of the canvas and then just use it to the align and distribute to put it perfectly on the bottom or in the center or wherever it is you want. And then if that piece was smaller, you can also align it to perfectly be in the center. And I'm going to show that right here in the bottom, but also in the center. And that's the video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and see you guys next time.